Good afternoon, my dear students. Today we're going to have another virtual class for Math 611 and 2. This is Analytic Trigonometry. Today we're going to discuss your part 3, no? Analytic Trigonometry part 3. So it's already under week 9. Today is October 29, 2021, and our schedule is 1:10 to 2:40 p.m. So Module 7, it is Analytic Trigonometry part 3. At this point in the course, we have learned a lot of identities already. These identities are useful not only in proving but also in solving trigonometric equation. We will learn how to do that in this module. We also look at some more identities which are not as important as the previous identities, but can also be useful in some applications. At the end of this module, you are expected to 1. Solve trigonometric equation by applying your knowledge of the identities. 2. Know the sum and product identities. So yun po yung dalawang ating objective for today's lesson. So solving trigonometric equation. In the third module of this course, we have solved some trigonometric equations. Those equations, however, are simple ones because they do not require our knowledge of the trigonometric identities. Now that we know most of the important identities, we can solve more complicated trigonometric equation. Note that for our purposes, the angle values that we'll accept are only those that are within the range of from 0 to 2 pi. That is in terms of radians. 0 degree to 2 pi, 0 radians to 2 pi radians. Wherein 0 radians is 0 degree is the same as 0 degree, whereas 2 pi radians, that is equivalent to 360 degrees. So which means if we're going to convert that, our range from 0 to 360 degrees. So we have your example. Solve 2 cosine squared x plus sine x is equal to 1. Okay? So last week, we have discussed about your other trigonometric identities, no? Whereas meron tayong formula doon, sine squared theta, 2 sine theta, cosine theta is equal to 2 sine theta. And also, cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta is equal to cosine 2 theta. So we have here another example. If we're going to solve for 2 cosine squared x plus sine squared x is equal to 1. Solution. To solve this equation, we must first write the expression in terms of just one trigonometric functions. We can do this by replacing cosine squared x with 1 minus sine squared x. So that's our formula, no? This is from the one of the 8 fundamental identities stating that sine squared x plus cosine squared x is equal to 1. So we already discussed this one in our Analytic Trigonometry Part 1, one of the 8 proving identities that we have there. So we have 2 cosine squared x plus sine x is equal to 1. So we're going to replace this one by, from our formula, sine squared x plus cosine squared x. We're going to solve for cosine squared x, that is the same as 1 minus sine squared x. Ito na po siya. Ito na yung value niya. Then, plus sine x is equal to 1. So we have 2 times 1, 2 times sine squared x plus sine x is equal to 1. So, simplify it further. 2 sine squared x minus sine x minus 1 is equal to 0. So, ang ginawa po natin dito is we multiply by negative sign. Okay? Negative 1. So, yung negative dito times negative, we have positive. Yung 2 dito is magiging negative 2 po siya. Tapos ito, inilipat siya. So, we have minus 1. Then we have your sine x. Okay? So 2 sine squared x minus sine x minus 1 is equal to 0. And also, if we're going to factor that one, that is perfect square trinomial, 2 sine x plus 1, then multiply by sine x minus 1. 2 sine x, we have 2 sine squared, no? 2 sine x times negative 1 is negative 2 sine x. 1 by sine x is positive sine x minus 2 negative 2 sine x. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. So ito yung factor nito. Okay? Next, equating its factor to 0. Okay? 2 sine x plus 1 is equal to 0 and sine x minus 1 is equal to 0. So from 2 sine x plus 1 is equal to 0, if we're going to solve for sine x, okay? So cross multiply po siya, magiging sine x. Ito nilipat natin siya sa kabila. So what's left will be 2 sine x equal to negative 1. If we're going to solve for sine x, so we have negative 1 half. So which means x is equal to 7 pi all over 6 or negative 11 pi all over 6 po siya. Okay? So sine x equal to negative 1 half. So 7 pi all over 60, that is the same as, if we're going to have that in terms of degree, times 180 all over pi radians. So 7 times 80, 180 is around 7, times 8 is 560 divided by 6. So that's now the equivalent degree value. Okay? So 7 pi all over 6. Gawin po natin, para makuha po natin in terms of degree, times 180 divided by pi radians. So yung pi times pi will going to cancel. Okay? Yung pi radians dito sa baba. So 7 times 180. Okay? Then divided by 6, that is now the equivalent degree. Or 11 pi all over 6. Okay? So which means your sine x equal to 1 all over 2. So we have your, from our formula, sine theta is equal to opposite all over hypotenuse. So this one is from negative 1, the opposite, all over 2. Okay? So that is our value. Also, from sine x minus 1 is equal to 0. So yung 1 ilalagay natin sa kabila. Okay? So sine x will be is equal to 1. Which means x is equal to pi all over 2. So 1 is opposite all over hypotenuse, or sine x equal to pi all over 2, that is equivalent to 90 degrees. Pi times 180 divided by pi radians. So pi we're going to cancel. 180 divided by 2, the answer is 90 degrees. So therefore, the solutions to this equation are 7 pi all over 6, 11 pi all over 6, and pi all over 2. So that's our answer. Okay? So next we have another example. Solve since sine 2x cosecant x plus 4 cosine squared x is equal to 0. Okay? So we are going to simplify. From the double angle identity, we know that sine 2x is equal to 2 sine x cosine x. Okay? Ito yung formula po natin, no? Sa double angle identity. 2 sine theta cosine theta is equal to sine 2 theta. Ito po siya. And if we're going to have that, sine 2x cosecant x plus 4 cosine squared x equal to 0. Becomes 2 sine x cosine x. Ibig sabihin, yung sine 2x dito, ito siya, no? Pinalitan ng 2 sine x cosine x. So, 2 sine x cosine x cosecant x plus 4 cosine squared x is equal to 0. Yun po siya. So, rearranging the equation, 2 sine x cosecant x cosine x plus 4 cosine squared x is equal to 0. Okay? So, parang inaris lang po natin ito, no? Inaris lang po natin. Using the idea that sine x and cosecant x are reciprocal of each other. Ibig sabihin nun, sine theta is equal to cosecant theta. Okay? So pareho lang sila, 1 all over cosecant theta, no? Or, yung sin x dito, yung cosecant x, from our formula, SOHCAHTOA, ko siya kaw. So yung reciprocal ng sin is cosecant. Kaya itong dalawa, makakancel na siya. Sin x, cosine x is equivalent to 1 po siya. Kasi ito, reciprocal ng sin. Cosecant x is the same as 1 all over sin x. Kaya yung sin x are going to cancel. What's left will be 2 cosine x plus 4 cosine squared x is equal to 0. So next, factoring out cosine 2 cosine x. Okay, pa-factor po natin siya. Okay, pag finactor siya, 2 cosine x, the common factor, 2 cosine x by 1, 2 cosine x, 2 cosine x by 2 cosine x is 4 cosine squared x is equal to 0. So either 2 cosine x is equal to 0, 1, or 1 plus 2 cosine x is equal to 0. So ibig sabihin, we are now going to have their answers. We're going to equate this one into 0. 2 cosine x is equal to 0. 1 plus 2 cosine x is equal to 0. Equate na natin siya. Okay? 2 cosine x is equal to 0 or 1 plus 2 cosine x is equal to 0. From 2 cosine x is equal to 0, so therefore, cosine x is equal to 0, which means x is equal to pi all over 2, or that is 90 degrees, or 3 pi all over 2, or 3 pi, which is 3 times 180 is by 40 divided by 2. This one is equivalent to 270 degrees. Yung value po niya, no? If you're going to have with you your calcu, cosine theta, depress 0, you're going to have a value of pi all over 2 or 3 pi all over 2. So this one in the first degree, this one is first quadrant, this one is lies on the third quadrant. Okay? And also, 1 plus 2 cosine x equal to 0, so cosine is equal to negative 1 half. So ito ililagay natin sa kabila, magiging minus 1. So pag sinolve natin yung cosine x, so we have negative 1 half. So angles the interval from 0 to pi that have a cosine of negative 1 half are 2 pi all over 3 and 4 pi all over 3. Or that is the same as 2 pi all over 3. 2 times 180 is 360 divided by 3. That is equivalent to 120 degrees. Or 4 times 180 is 720. Okay? 720 divided by 2, 3. So that's our answer. Okay? So the solutions to the equation are pi all over 2, 3 pi all over 2, 2 pi all over 3, and 4 pi all over 3. So these are the value of our sine 2x cosine x plus 4 cosine x, 4 cosine squared x is equal to 0. So that's our answer. Next, we have your D, sum and product identities. The identities that we'll discuss in this section are important. When we want to convert the product of two trigonometric function to sum and vice versa. So last week, meron tayong half angle, no? Two angle, parang ganun din siya, meron din tayo. Ngayon, another probing identity. So we have the sum and product identities. So product to sum identities. The first one can be derived from the addition identities we have discussed before. Ito na po siya, no? Last week, no? Analytic Trigonometry Part 2, wherein sine quantity A plus B is equal to sine A cosine B cosine A sine B. Sine A minus B is equal to sine A cosine B minus cosine A sine B. Okay? So if we have these two identities, we get sine A plus B plus sine A minus B, i-add po natin, is equal to 2 sine A cosine B. Kasi itong dalawa makakancel na po siya. Kaya natira, itong dalawa na lang, we have 2 sine A cosine B na lang po siya. If we're going to add these two. Okay? Cancel na yan. Next, by symmetry, 2 sine A cosine B is equal to sine A plus B plus sine quantity A minus B. So therefore, sine A cosine B, okay, tatanggalin natin yung 2, magiging is equal to 1 half sine A plus B plus sine A minus B. For our next product to sum identity, we subtract the addition identities below. So sine A plus B is equal to sine A cosine B plus cosine A sine B. Sine A minus B is equal to sine A cosine B minus cosine A sine B. So nung una, if we're going to add these two identity, ito yung magiging sagot po niya. Okay? Kaya sabi nila, sum ang product identities, no? So, ito na siya. Sine A cosine B is equal to 1 half sine A plus B plus sine A minus B. So, the next thing we're going to do, tapos na yung addition, ngayon we're going to subtract. Pag sinubtract natin itong dalawa, sine A plus B minus sine A minus B, okay? So, by this time, ito yung magkakancel na. Okay? So, we're going to subtract, we're going to change the subtrahend. This one will become positive na po siya. And then, proceed as in addition. Kaya pag in-add mo itong dalawa, we're going to have 2 cosine A sine B po. So, dyan galing yung simplifications po niya. So, simplifying one, we have cosine A sine B is equal to 1 all over 2 sine A plus B minus sine A minus B. Using the same idea, we will be able to derive the last two product to sum identities. So therefore, cosine A cosine B is equal to 1 half cosine A plus B plus cosine A minus B. And also, sine A sine B is equal to 1 half cosine A minus B minus cosine A plus B. Okay? So that is our formula. Ito yung formula natin una. Ito siya, no? Sine A. Okay? 1 half, okay? A minus B, A plus B. Okay? So that's our solution. Next, in the summary, the product of two sum identities are sine A cosine B is equal to 1 half sine A plus B plus sine A minus B. Also, cosine A sine B is equal to 1 half sine A plus B minus sine A minus B pag tayo ay nag-subtract. Also, cosine A cosine B, that is the same as 1 all over 2 cosine A plus B plus cosine A minus B. Sine A sine B is the same as 1 all over 2 cosine A minus B minus cosine A plus B. So by this time, we have another 4 trigonometric identities. Okay? So dami na tayo, no? The formula ng probing identities. So example, convert the product sine x cosine 4x to an expression involving the sum of trigonometric functions. Solution, following the first pattern. Sine 4x cosine x. Okay? Sine 4x cosine 4x is equal to 1 half sine 4x plus x plus sine 4x minus x. Okay, so in-arrange natin, no? So, sinundan natin yung pattern. 1 half sine 4x plus x. Okay? Sine A, then cosine A. Ito, no? Ito yung formula ang ginamit natin. Sine A cosine B is equal to 1 all over 2 sine A plus B plus sine A minus B. So, this one represents your A. This one represents your B. So, sine A plus B plus sine A minus B. So we have sine 4x cosine x equal to 1 all over 2. 4x plus x is 5x. 4x minus x, we have sine 3x. So therefore, we have sine 4x cosine x is equal to 1 all over 2 sine 5x plus sine 3x. So that is our answer. Okay? So na-convert na natin. Next, we have the sum to product identities. Sometimes, instead of converting from the product form to the sum form, we want the reverse. To derive the identities for this purpose, we can use the product to sum identities. So, paano yung gagawin po natin? First, we look at sine A cosine B is equal to 1 half sine A plus B plus sine A minus B. Okay? So, by symmetry, we have 1 half sine A plus B, okay, plus sine A minus B is equal to sine A cosine B po siya. Okay? Multiplying both sides by 2, okay? Ito parang nireverse lang natin, no? Ito nilagay natin sa left, ito nilagay natin siya sa right po siya. Multiplying both sides by 2, sine A plus B plus sine A minus B is equal to 2 sine A cosine B. So parang yung formula natin kanina, no? Ito. Ito na siya. 2 sine A cosine B is equal to sine A plus B plus sine A minus B. So dyan po siya galing. Okay? So ito na po siya, no? So sine A plus B plus sine A minus B, we have 2 sine A cosine B. For a more compact form, on the side of the sum, we let A plus B is equal to C and A minus B is equal to D. So A plus B is equal to C, A minus B is equal to D. So solving the system, A plus B is equal to C, A minus B is equal to D for A and B. Okay? So we should get A is equal to C plus D all over 2 and B is equal to C minus D all over 2. Ito po siya, no? Yung formula natin. Ito siya, no? Okay? So, by substitution, sine A plus B plus sine A minus B is equal to 2 sine A cosine B. Okay? So, ano yung gagawin po natin? So, from our equation kanina, your A plus B is equal to C. So, this is now your sine C. A minus B is equal to D. Kaya ito magiging sine D po siya. Then, we have is equal to 2 sine. Yung A natin, we have C plus D all over 2. Okay? So, if we're going to equate that one, this is your C plus D divided by 2, no? Kasi yung sine makakancel na siya. Okay? Na-gets po ninyo, no? If we're going to divide the whole equation by sine, cancel yung sine, cancel din yung sine, no? So, natira will be cosine na, no? So, we have cosine, okay? Yung B natin, C minus D all over 2. Ito na po siya. Okay? So, following the same procedure, we can get the 3 other identities. So, dami na tayong panibagong identity. Okay? So, ito yung kanina, in-equate po tayo is equal to C, A minus B is equal to D po siya. Okay? So, yun po, no? 2 sine C plus D for angle A, C plus D all over 2, C minus D, that's your angle B. Okay? If we're going to equate that one. So, in the summary, the sum to the product identities are sine C plus sine D is equal to 2 sine C plus D all over 2 cosine C minus D all over 2. And also, sine C minus sine D, parang pinatun lang po siya dun sa formula po natin kanina, no? So, this one is addition. Ito po yung addition natin. Pag subtraction, ganyan din po siya. So, we have sine C minus sine D is equal to cosine. Nakabalik na lang po siya, no? C plus D all over 2 multiply by sine C minus D all over 2. Also, cosine C plus cosine D is equal to cosine C plus D all over 2 cosine C minus D all over 2. And for the last one, cosine C minus cosine D is equal to negative 2 sine C plus D all over 2 multiplied by sine C minus D all over 2. Sinundan lang natin yung formula nung una. Ito, no? Yung A at saka B, pinalitan po natin siya ng ito, no? A minus B, pinalitan po natin siya ng ano ito? D. Yung A plus B, pinalitan natin ng C. Okay, so pareho lang po siya, no? Diyan galing yung formula. Yung 2 sine A, 2 sine B. Ito siya, no? 2 sine A, sine B. Ito na siya. 2 sine A, sine B. Ito. 2 cosine A, cosine B. 2 cosine A, sine B. 2 sine A, cosine B. Sine A plus B, that is C. A minus B is D. Tapos yung A natin is equal to, from our formula dito, C plus D all over 2. Ito. Sine C plus D all over 2 cosine C minus D all over 2. So, the same formula. Okay? So, example, express cosine 5x plus cosine 3x as a product. Okay? So, anong formula ang gagamitin natin? Cosine, cosine. Cosine 5x plus cosine 3x. Cosine 5x, cosine 3x. So, we can use the third identity in our list. Cosine C plus cosine D. Ito siya, no? Cosine C plus cosine D is equal to 2 cosine C plus D all over 2 multiplied by cosine C minus D all over 2. Okay? So, where C is equal to 5x and D is equal to 3x. Following the pattern, cosine 5x, ito na siya, no? That's your C. Cosine 5x plus cosine D, which is 3x, is equal to 2 cosine 5x plus 3x divided by 2 multiplied by cosine 5x minus 3x divided by 2. So, collecting like terms, cosine 5x plus cosine 3x, 5x plus 3x is 8x divided by 2. We have 4x. 5x minus 3x, 2x divided by 2. We have cosine x. So, that is our answer. Okay, so that ends our discussion for today, which is all about analytic trigonometry part 3 po.